something that's come to us all is we're starting to hear in the pop psychologies and the spiritual teachings of today, we're hearing these ideas along the lines of, empowerment, personal empowerment. So that's good, that's healthy, it's better than just disempowerment. But what we then did was tried to go from disempowerment to self-inflated empowerment. It's better than no empowerment because at least you stand a chance to get some great ideas from it. But it is not the answer. It's just better. It's just a better idea because you start getting some idea that you have value. So what I'm leading to in part is that lots of teachers and teachings today will tell you, that basically you are such and such. You need to be empowered and you need to take your power back and all these kinds of things. And even when you're being coached, counseled or coached or 12 stepped, the idea, even in 12 steps, the idea is you can't really do this without God. So there's a humility that changes us. You can't fix the world with the same mind that screwed it up. That was just a slightly paraphrase there at the end, but you can't fix the world with the twisted mind that miscreated it. So you say, well, then I'll improve my mind. No. There's a shorter path, calling upon the divine that knows what fixed would look like. Better word would be what healed would look like. So we've got this tendency on this planet to say, well, I've got this, I'm not going to go back into humanist versus holiness, but the emphasis today is your identity. So popular today is your thoughts create your reality. They don't. They only assist your creating your reality. Your thoughts still come from somewhere. Some of you have heard me say this, so thank you for your patience while I repeat. It isn't your thoughts per se. And it isn't your thinking brain per se. It's your soul. Your soul doesn't have thinking the way you know thinking to be. So we've got these humans walking around trying to do behavioral modification. I'm just going to fix my thinking. No, I am wonderful. And I do deserve a raise. And that's better than I'm a lowlife and I don't deserve anything. It is. It's better. But what we're doing, though, is puffing ourselves up. To a degree, you're tempting the ego to join you. As long as you're still in your humanness versus holiness, the ego is going to try to hijack it all and turn it into something less than holy or divine. So people are talking about your thoughts, how important your thoughts are. And I'm trying to get across to people, your human self still is the thinker. Like in certain Buddhist meditations and processes, you're backing away and you're backing away from the one that thinks that it's thinking. Then the one that's now aware that it's thinking, you back off from that too. It's appealing and appealing and appealing and appealing away to where all of a sudden there's like a sense of nothing, which for some people is frightening. But the nothing isn't where you stay. After the nothing, you start finding the only thing. Lots of somethings, then nothing, then the only thing. And that's back to a state of divinity. Now, that's not something that happens only for people that wear robes. It's not for people that have meditated for a certain number of hours. It's a funny thing because you have some people that have meditated austere lives, dedication for lifetimes, and they still haven't gotten that. And then you have somebody else. They sit down and their very first time. Okay, now, how did they say to do that again? Okay, close my eyes. And then they see God. And it's like, wow, I saw God. Then you got these angry, people with robes going, now I have more forgiveness to work on. But you can't determine when that point's going to be. You're better off just not caring. You're better off treating yourself like you're already there and it doesn't matter. Which is a really cool trick to play on your ego. Instead of, I'm waiting for something divine to happen, no, it kind of feels like it's already happened. Your ego's going to say, prove it. Have you seen purple in your meditation? Sparkles, angels yet? Well, no. See? And that's what the ego does. Always trying to make us feel like we're flawed. So what you do is instead you go, well, the human me would like to dwell and obsess on that being flawed, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to just go, and it's okay. Making things okay, your ego doesn't know what to do with people that do things like that. When you just say, but I know I'm already there. And as I stand here, I'm telling you, you're already there. If you don't believe me, and it's impossible to believe me, work on that, or just give up and listen to somebody else. But I'm standing here and I guarantee you that you're already there, because you never originally left. We can't leave all that is. All we're doing is experiencing the holographic lenses that we put on. The holographic headset is showing us a world that once upon a time seems to have manifested, and then we seem to have gone in and lived there for 1 billion years. But it's actually just a holographic program. It's just software. Just eject it. Stop believing in it. So what I'm partly saying is, even though you and I are living in the hologram, apparently living in the hologram, we're actually not here. We're in God with a headset on that we chose to put on. That's called the belief in separation. And we chose to put on a headset and go, well, if we could separate from love, what would it look like? Hey, check it out. Oh my God. And that's it. And we're still thinking we're there now that we put it on. It's like a really bad trip. A lengthy, bizarre trip that you couldn't get out of. My point is this. When Buddha said the number one problem for humanity is ignorance, what he meant was identity ignorance. You forgot who you are. That's what he says. I don't know why that's not taught within Buddhism much, or pseudo-Buddhism. Even pseudo-Buddhism, meaning a lot of people that walk around getting drunk with mala beads on their wrists. The pseudo, I'm a Buddhist, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. Just come on. It'd be better if you just say, I'm an alcoholic, and get into a program. You'd make a lot more progress than this. Anyway, so don't get me started. So the idea with this is it's the ignorance of identity. The only reason we suffer, Buddha was saying, was ignorance. But he meant ignorance of your identity. If you know who you are, you will not suffer, because your real self is an I am self. It's a divine self. You can't harm people when you're in your true I am. You can't be harmed when you're in your true I am presence. So back to identity. Okay, now we have a problem, because the human can't easily just remember the holy. What you can do is do your best to live as though you're in that state of mind. Kind of a fake it till you make it concept. Yeah, kind of. But it's not really faking it till you make it. It seems like that, but it's not really, because you're not faking it, because you are it. We really are holy beings, but we forgot. So how should I treat myself for the things I've done? The shame's done to me, the shames I've done to myself. Well, if I remember that this is all because I forgot who I am, then I'm going to be more patient with myself. This is like, well, yeah, I did do a little too much this, and I did do a little too much that, but considering I forgot who I was, it's understandable. If you found somebody who was a victim of amnesia, what are you going to do? Like, shame them for not remembering who they are? Shame them for not remembering that they were somebody's husband or wife or their child? They have amnesia. You'd be like, oh, well, okay. And you would think in terms of, how can we help them heal the amnesia to help them come back, right? I don't think most of us would have anger at them. How dare you have amnesia? It would be like, how can we help? That's the way we're supposed to look at people that act rude on this planet, including ourselves. Forgive them, they know not what they do meant Jesus was saying, oh, you guys have amnesia. Sorry to see that. And they're like, you jerk. Stab, spit, throw things at him, and punch him. And he's still like, wow, amnesia squared, but it's still amnesia. It's still amnesia. It's not like, well, we've just gone from amnesia to you're a jerk, people. Then you're believing that it's happening. So here's the identity crisis of all identity crisis. The more you react when people do things, the more you're affirming that their amnesia is true. If somebody says, I don't like your hairstyle, and you get mad or defensive about it, you're actually showing that you have buttons they can push. Those buttons could only be there because those buttons are called beliefs. So I'm reacting to you because I believe on some level, even if it's I don't want to believe it, those are still beliefs. So you fight back. Well, I don't have those beliefs. I'm just trying to prove that they're wrong, all of that defensiveness, Jesus saying, resist not evil. This is easily said. I mean, I'm standing here saying it. It's not easily done all the time. You might be able to handle it when someone cuts you off on the road. You might be like, okay, I got it. Wow, very cool. I got it. But if they happen to run over your foot, you're not going to be like, oh, you're going to be in pain because it's still a hologram. Remember, a dreamt head bumped against a dreamt rock brings dreamt pain. So even in a nightmare at night, things feel painful. They feel real when you're being chased or hurt or whatever. So even a dream feels real. That's why this is seemingly so real. But it doesn't change the truth behind it. We are holy children of God, made in God's perfect image. Not just perfectly made, but in God's perfect image. And then in pop psychology and New Age thinking, we then go, that means this person. Oh, so I'm made in God's image. No, God doesn't look like you. And I'm made in God, so I'm okay. No, actually you're not. You're suffering from psychosis. You think you're here and you're engaging with people at the level of fear and pain. So when we say you're made in the image of God, we don't mean this reactive person here, this person that thinks they can get aged or die, get sick or die. None of that's real in God. You can't have debts in God. How does God have debts? I'm made in God's image. God cannot have debt. Therefore, I can't have debt. So you can see the contrast. The point is, it seems like it. Just get that. This is how it seems. It seems like I'm alone. It feels, seems like it, or feels like I'm scared or hurt or in pain, but just remember, in the back of your mind, be able to say, but in God, this is not so. There's a lot of workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles along those lines that are affirming that despite what seems to be, it is not so. You're not being taught denial. Denial actually has only one true function. Negative denial is to pretend something doesn't look or feel like it is. And that's silly, because we do believe in these things. So that's a false form of denial. Real denial is to know your I am God presence and that something can't harm you. Something isn't greater than you. You can say, I feel like it, but then be able to say, but it can't be so. That's the truth. That's not denial. And if you call it denial, it's called healthy denial. Because you're denying an illusion having power over the truth of who you are. That's real. That's true. So sometimes this concept of identity is often said, but rarely understood. When I'm talking about identity, I'm saying that it isn't the self-inflated, okay, I now have self-esteem. I'm seeing a counselor who's helping with my self-esteem. And it's good to do that. But they can only take you so far into true self-esteem. Self-esteem means I am one of esteem. And I don't need that. I have to really understand true value. Not just esteem, which is external, value, internal value. The real value of who I am is beyond measure. When you say value, it could mean your true worth, but how are you ever going to understand your value if you don't know who you are? So I have a lot of you folks come to me as clients and say, well, I'm really starting to work on, self-worth or my value. And I'll say, really? And what makes you valuable? Well, because I'm a good person. Wrong. What makes you valuable? Well, I'm a good mom. Wrong. Next. What makes you valuable? Well, I'm very creative. Wrong. Any answer you give about your value is going to be wrong. Or by wrong, what I mean is it's still limited because it's still you that you're talking about. The only time you can truly gain self-esteem, if that's the term you want to use for it, although that's externalized, true self-worth / value comes from your real identity, which you don't determine. So as soon as you say, I'm valuable because stop. You can be a spiritual teacher. I'm really valuable because I'm a spiritual teacher. You're still talking. Your only true worth and value comes from God. I am. The more, and that's where that vulnerable comes from and says, you know what? I know nothing. You show me. And that's where the last shall be first and the first shall be last. Talk about your esteem, you're dropped to the bottom. Say, I don't know, but God will show me, and you're taken high. See? And that part hasn't been absorbed yet by humanity. That part just hasn't been gotten yet. The minds have not wrapped around that yet because it involves something higher. So even spiritual teachers are going to teach you at one of these three levels. You have a spiritual self, a soul self, and a human self. Almost all teachers, even so-called spiritual teachers, are still only addressing the human self. We're going to talk about your health, your finances, external things, how to get that new job, external things. Out of all, human beings are just so much asleep. But even those who have a clue and want to help people usually only know how to help on that most fundamental level. There's another level called the soul. Then there's the spiritual. Now, as soon as a teacher says, I'm going to advise you on the spiritual level, walk away. This one, I recommend that you reserve for God to be your teacher. The greatest of us can only help your soul here, the heart and soul, which helps you prepare for the spiritual. So sometimes the work we do, those of us that get the priorities straight, what really happens is we prepare you for the spiritual, the highest of us. But there's only a handful of spiritual teachers that can take you to the highest level of the soul. But if they start talking about themselves and how amazing they are, they're actually confirming that they're even lower than that. A true spiritual teacher knows how to step out of the way and say, don't stop here. This is, the train keeps going, man. Don't stop here. This is not your full stop. All the way home. Let the Mother, the Divine Mother, the Holy Spirit be your teacher and your healer. Why would you settle for a human? Don't even settle for an angel or a deceased relative. Don't settle for light beings. Don't settle for anything that is in dimensionality. Go for that which is beyond dimensionality. Go for God. Just let the Divine Mother, the Holy Spirit, in your own words, call on Christ. Whatever word is right, but go all the way home. Let me or one of us teach you about the human. Let us teach you about the soul, those of us who are worthy to do so. But understand, the rest is between you and God. And that's good humility for us teachers and for you, any of us that are students. See what I'm saying? There's three parts of me, and I want them all to get awakened as best I can. This one's already awake. Technically, this one's already awake. I need to work not on my knowingness with God, my beliefs. My beliefs are the middle one, and my outcomes are the lowest one. The human self is just the outcome. So when people tell you, you know what you need to do? You need to do a certain physical exercise, and then before you know it, you'll be one with God. No, that doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. You cannot spiritualize the body per se. What you can do is spiritualize your mind. You can let the light of God shine into your mind and raise your soul's awareness. Then your soul's awareness will reflect in your human life, but the human will not make you divine. No matter how much you fast, pranayama, breathing, it doesn't matter. You can't, and if you could, the moment that it happened, and I think I talked about this last Friday night, the moment that it happened, the body would disappear anyway. You can't be divine and hold a body eternally. The body is a statement of having lost my divinity. I'm not shaming the body. The body isn't real. How could I shame it? The body is a reflection. So it's really neither to be loved nor hated. It's to be seen as a vehicle to bring divinity. Not to be divine, to bring divine. So I'm going to come into this lifetime. The body's not bad. I zip up this body and say, hi. Some of us won't zip up a body. We'll be on the other side going, hi there. Can I be one of your guides? Yes, that would be really great. Thank you. And they'll teach you from there. But some of us got into bodies because some of us need to hear words. Actual words. That we need to see someone that we can believe in. As soon as every time you think you're an it, you need a that. I need that person to talk to me because I'm an it. And so if you're a they, you need a them. It's the way this mind works, this consciousness works. But when we know our true selves, everything starts to relax. Everything kind of comes back to this state of ease. Because you're slipping into this feeling of being instead of doing. So it all kind of works out. I love the way it kind of turns around and works out. So if you go to a teacher and they're talking about the health and the body and fitness and, openness of the body, I think it's great. Massage included, body work, physical therapy, chiropractic, prosperity, all the things of the material, they're fine. But it tells me that that's a teacher of that level, which is great. It has a purpose. It serves a purpose. It's fine. Don't make it your God, but it's fine. Excellent. Then go to teachers of the soul. How do you know if they're the soul versus the body? Because they'll talk to you about the soul. They'll talk to you about love and forgiveness because that's heart. The lower three chakras are of the human. The upper three chakras are of the divine. The heart's in the middle. So the soul teacher talks about love and forgiveness. They talk about connecting the dots. See, a teacher that talks linearly, they're still of the human. There's this one thing you all ought to know, and it's the only thing you should know. It's one little piece. A teacher from this level goes, here's how it all connects. Here's how chakras can connect with this, and this can connect with that, and oneness, and meditation, and ancient civilizations, or whatever. The heart teacher is going to be really of a great, great consciousness. Try in your own way to make sure that you incorporate that in your studies, in your spiritual work. Otherwise, you're only working on one level. It's not a bad level, it's just not the highest level. Get this one and work it. But get the next as well, the soul level teachings and teacher. But the finale, that's God. That's when you're starting to talk about oneness and God and I am presence. That's when you're being humble. How do you know if you're going to the spiritual? The word surrender is the first and foremost word. It's not how much you think, how much you read. It's the opposite. Put the books down and do this. Not permanently. Not permanently. Don't do the body, don't do the study. No. In the moment that you're doing your spiritual study, it's with God. When people say to me, and I have to admit, in all my years, people would say, well, how do you, because I was a kid when I started teaching. And they would go, well, you can't really know anything. You're only 20. I was already doing seminars and lectures in halls, And the humanness in me was like, uh-oh. They can't believe that I'm teaching this. What do I do? Well, I just taught. I just did it anyway. I just would get up, walk up front, and, and I would stand to teach, and I would hear some of the, no, he's so young, and all these comments. And it's like, as a kid, because nobody taught me differently, as a kid, I was feeling a little worried or insecure about it. And so they would say, some people, where did you study? And I would like, well, I've studied a lot, and I kind of read here and there, but they couldn't just believe that it was just God. So I had to try to give them something they could believe in. In so doing, there's nothing wrong with that. It's called bridging. But at the same time, I had to realize I'm making excuses for being connected. You see, I don't have a problem with the fact that I was 20 and did that. I mean, I was kind of a kid, and I don't know what else to do because nobody taught me. Nobody said, here's how you plug in. I didn't see any spiritual teachers that looked plugged in. You know, you could hear about some that lived once upon a time, but I didn't see it modeled, so I had to kind of fend for myself. And this is going to be an important part as we're going to come to a close in a little bit here. It's not just my story. This is for everybody here. Going into the new year, 2020, this is going to be happening a lot. You're going to be going through, and I'm going to be going through these same tests, because we're going to start going through more and more of a period of refinement, prioritizing and getting refinement. So, not everybody's, comfortable with that idea. What does it mean to get refined? It's to be what you talk about, to step in, to be and become. All these things we talk about and, pray for and whatever. But one thing that'll help you is to know the difference. Do not just go to a teacher or a book on either of these other two topics. And definitely start bringing in teachings of the soul and not just of the humanness. Don't just go to people coaching you and counseling you on your humanness. Do that and more, not instead of that. Because if you try to ignore that, it's bypassing. You're trying to do the infamous spiritual bypassing. Oh, I'm just going to chant myself into enlightenment while the rest of my life falls apart. Get this right, but start incorporating, my bit of advice here, start incorporating more soul level teachings. How do you know they're soul level? They need to be higher. They need to be about love and forgiveness. They need to be simple and clear instead of convoluted and crazy. And they need to be about connecting dots instead of separating them. Instead of this thing's wrong and this thing's right, just bring the pieces together that make sense. And as this is happening, you start realizing, this is really weird. I'm starting, before you know it, you're like living this instead of studying it. And this is how you do it. Get the highest teachings you can. Don't settle. And recognize, like using an example from my life. I'm telling you that one of my biggest challenges in this lifetime, and I'm saying it's going to be the same for you because this is the same as I talked about last week. The blending, the merging, moving from humanness to holiness sounds contrasted. The ego wants you to feel contrasted because divided we fall. So you can say, well, okay, I'm tired of this whole human thing. I'm going to be like a mystic. The mystics screwed it up too, because they tried to not be human and live as though they're divine, because that makes sense. That's how to get home. I mean, it makes sense. Don't act human, act connected all the time, and the next thing you know, you'll be home. But they keep having to incarnate again. They didn't ascend, most of them. They end up having to come back because they didn't chop wood and carry water. They were like, oh no, it's an illusion. It didn't, and then you starved to death. Now you're back to not starve this time. So now you're an overeater, and compensating for your mystical lifetimes. And it's like, well, then how do you do it? And I'm telling you, as a human being, I didn't have someone stand up and talk about this. I never heard that. But one of my greatest challenges in this lifetime, certainly it's in the top two challenges, and they both overlap. And one of them is dealing with that, how to reconcile. What I'm saying is, I knew there was an identity in me that felt spiritual as a kid. But nobody understood it, nobody got it, nobody explained it to me. Once in a blue moon. Once in a blue moon. I mean, I remember going to an aunt's house, somewhere back east here, back east. My parents, we came in and they're saying for some reason this they called her the crazy aunt, but she's actually the one that wasn't crazy, the only one, And so she says, Michael, can I do a reading for you? And I'm like, is it okay? I'm just a kid, like probably 10, 12, somewhere in there. My parents were like, yeah, whatever, and she's like, oh, she gets out her tarot cards. She's like, oh my. Oh my. And my dad's like, yeah, we know. And she goes, no, he's going to be a teacher. He's going to be helping lots and lots of people. They're like, yeah, Ashpet, because they're giving the Italian reactions and yeah, right. And this world will not always support it, but that's one out of many that didn't, that got it. So as a kid, and I'm saying this to all of us, in our infancy and adolescence of spiritual development, the world doesn't necessarily get it. And it's not just that they don't get it. Forget the they, because we don't want to just blame. It's you are going through the process of trying to reconcile these two worlds. You know, because a part of you starts waking up and the other part doesn't resonate with that. It doesn't know how to. I mean, I'm a mom and I raised my kids one way. I can't start being all lofty spiritual. They'll make fun of me. Well, I'm a dad who's doing this. My own parents will disown me. You know, there's all this stuff in this world. You're starting to wake up, and that's why a title of one of my books, you're not going crazy, you're just waking up. But you were crazy. And when you're trying to make the world get what's happening, it will not. And that's hard on us. You can say the spiritual me, you know, the spiritual you is like, no, I totally get it. The mom that gets disowned by her kids because of it, the kid that gets owned by his parents because of it, that's not easy. The humanness trying to own that holiness, man, it's contrasted. I tried, man. I tried. I mean, I'm just a kid, but I'm growing and I have consciousness. I'm like, does anybody else have this? No. And there, you know, and it turned out later on that a couple of friends actually were getting it, but they were too intimidated to say anything. So they laid low and like, Michael, you know, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. But some of them actually got it later on. They got it for themselves, that they also had thoughts like that. So in growing up, there's a part of me that tried to be a guy, hang out with the guys. But my consciousness is like this, but I'm trying to pretend it's like this. Hey, how's it going, man? Just hanging out with the guys. But I would be like, you know, and it just didn't go over well. I mean, it's like, you know, one of the stories, you know, when I was a kid in school, in grade school, you know, the teacher told my parents, they're like, what's wrong with this kid? They're like, the teacher's like, I don't know. He could nail homework like it would just, he would finish. And he was always, the homework would just, like his answers, he would just always answer everything first few years of school. And then one teacher said one day he just turned the paper over and started drawing, and he never did the homework again. Was it because it was so easy and I just got it and moved on? Or was it because I was like one of those segues where it's left brain trying to be your left brain world, but I'm not? And was that part of what happened there? So I'm saying to you, I mean, I tried to be normal, whether it was with intimacy in my life and meeting people, you know, lovers or girlfriends or whatever it happened to be in my life. I tried those things, and it's not easy. I'm saying to you, it's not easy, and I know you know that, but I would like you to practice accepting it more instead of getting frustrated. Why don't they get me? You don't even get you. Because you're trying to reconcile that you're a holy being. You know it on some level, but the world doesn't seem holy, and you're trying to make it make sense. And instead, our job is not to do one or the other. Our job is to do one in the other. How can I see this differently? Not how can I make it different. I tried to make the world spiritual and safe for my kids, and it didn't work out for them. By a certain age, things happen to them. You know, and it's like, dang, missed that one. Tried to, you know, to try dating or whatever as a kid. I never really went on a date per se in my life, but I tried doing something like that as a kid, and it never made sense. I mean, I'm not pretending to be better, nor am I trying to confess I'm a horrible person. I'm only telling you that, man, it was hard to go, I get this deep spiritual stuff. How do you tell that to a girl at 16 and 17 when you're trying to date or hook up or whatever you do as a kid? How do you tell it to your parents when you're 10? It doesn't, you know. So inside my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going through the motions, you know, of trying this and doing it. And you know, you fool around with intimacy and all these things, or whatever else we do in life. And it never made sense. So I would be doing those things, but in my mind, I couldn't do them. I couldn't do them the way people were doing them. You know, I had an older brother that was telling me how to do these things, intimately speaking. Well, here's what you do. But how do you communicate what you're doing to her? He's like, man, you're overthinking this. You know, And one day he goes, you know, the problem with you, Michael, is you're in touch with your feelings. I swear to God. I swear to God he said that to me. And I'm like... So, you and I share this. There's a part of us that knows, suspects, feels our divinity, and a part that doesn't know how to get this other piece to be divine. We can, you know, pretend we're going to do one thing or another on the pendulum. We're going to try to just, well, I'm going to do it by engaging and just being okay with it all. It won't work forever. Because the doings won't fix it. Then you can say, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to be all mystical and detached and this and that and the other. Too much extreme again. You're not asked to not do anything in this world. You're asked to do them differently. You're asked, because I remember trying this as a kid. All that could come to me was praying in the moment that I'm trying to do human-like things. That was still hard because nobody taught me what that looks like or what that means. You know, really? I mean, this seems weird. I'm at a party with guys and hanging out, and they're kind of, you know, getting a little buzzed or whatever, and you know, they would always notice, you know, well, Michael, why aren't you having a drink, you know? And so eventually I took a bottle and walked around with it through the whole party. They just assumed I kept emptying them and having another one. So as long as I walked around with a bottle, they didn't question it. But I'm saying to you, as a kid, I still wondered, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just drink like them? It didn't, you know, it just didn't make sense. You know, they're getting high, you know, and it feels weird. Your becoming more spiritual is going to feel weird in this world. And I'm predicting to you the more, because it's going to start happening more, starting this next year, it's going to be another major shift upwards. And the more this happens, please be aware of what I'm telling you today. I'm telling you, predicting in advance. The more contrast is going to start happening. Watch for it and ask the mother to help you birth a new moment. I'm not sure how to do this. How would you have me do this? You're still cooking dinner. You're still, you know, doing whatever you do. But do not be surprised that some things will not make sense. I'm telling you that you will not be able to continue settling in relationships or in jobs. So that means you're going to find yourself a bit less active in terms of dating and partnerships. There's still some people that are going to be in partnerships. That's great. But a lot more of us are going to recognize that you're not in one. And you're going to think, well, someday. I'm telling you, don't even worry about someday. You're needing to complete the process you're in, which is to get comfortable accepting where you are. And it doesn't mean to make yourself better. You know, the reason I'm not dating is because I'm holy and nobody else is. If you're really that holy, you would be saying, I'm so holy, I'm asking to see the holiness in everyone else. So, please don't take it personal if you find yourself not dating lately or for years. I'm telling you that even when we dated, we weren't doing it right. So what you're doing is you're fasting to try to clean it up a bit. And you're going, okay, so if I fast, then I get this one, and you're still personalizing it. It's the saying, I love you. You see? Like for me, if I'm in the old days going, okay, I'm going to try and go out with somebody. But guys, if your mind is like into love, and you understand love and respect, partnership, intimacy, how to be more tantric, or how to be more unconditional, or how to be more loving, what that does is it tempts people to fall in love. Because that feels so unique. So the more spiritual you become, the more contrasted you become to other people. Some of them are going to love you and they loved me. Some of them are going to hate you and they hated me. Because they don't know what the heck you are. You feel so loving. I have to possess you. I have to love you. And you go, yeah, but here's how it's done. Oh, no, that's not how I want it. You know, do you understand the word devour? Can I please, you know, devour, just own you and possess you? And I know that's caused a lot of hurt, a lot of, you know, challenges in my relations and in their relations with me, because it's so bizarre. Keep trying to figure it out like in the human sense with your head. It's not going to work. You're going to think you got it right and it's going to go south again. Because the human mind cannot figure it out. Ask spiritually. And the more you ask spiritually, the more again you start to stand out. For me as a kid, other guys I tried to hang out, I swear I'm not boasting nor am I putting myself down, but I'm saying it was impossible, it seemed, to not have guys feel threatened and competitive. I mean, I wouldn't even know people. I walk in a room and there's this thing, that's going on like this. Oh, who's he think he is? I just walked in. The bad thing that I did, the most hurtful thing I did to myself, is try to figure it out and shift into their way of doing it. I did. I didn't lose my mind and totally become a different person. But in a way, I just sheltered and hid back. That wasn't the best thing. It wasn't authentic. Okay? It wasn't authentic. The word authentic comes from the Latin authenticus. It means to write your own story. So we have to realize we're writing our own story all the time based on our identity. It's not like I have to have an identity and then think about it. As soon as your identity is established, which is every day, you take a new inventory of who you believe you are, and depending on what the answer was in the middle of the night, that's what your day is going to look like. Not just literally each day. Last night's thoughts could affect me a month from now. It's never exact last night, the next day, last night, the next day, and so on. It's my consciousness in general. I'm always asking myself who I am, any of us, and it's always being reflected in my outer life. So the problem is I feel like I know who I am. Even as a kid, I'm like, I feel like I know something great. But the kid wasn't taught how to deal with that on the outside. Because on the outside, even when you walk in a room, you are different, guys. You're even if you're just a person who for the first time said, I'm going into 12 steps. You're already a threat to the people that aren't going to do that. You're already mirroring to them their shame. And some of them are going to get triggered by you getting in the program. You think you're better than us. And it's the same. I'd walk in a room and guys, this, grunting, who's he? And I was like, just pee on the pole and mark your territory. I'm not I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. I'm just walking in. Family members got weird with me like that. Guys, gals, it's just, people are going to love the love in you because it's going to grow. And they're going to try to attach to it or shame you for it. People are also going to sense you're in a process. And your instability in your process is also going to be a target for the negative parts of their ego. So be careful. Don't settle. That doesn't mean don't be intimate. Find a way. If you want affection, find a way. Just hug people and even ask, do you mind? And be able to hold somebody, but stay clean with it. Or else don't do it. If you can't do it with God, don't do it, whatever it is. If you can't do it with a sense of, here's where I'm at in my process. I know that I don't need anyone, but right now I still would appreciate just a warm hug. Then ask someone you can trust to do that. And if you can't find anyone, just accept it and it's okay. Don't shame yourself for it. And when it comes to jobs, again, it could sound like I'm saying, don't have a job. Because wait for your soul's purpose. No. Continue doing what you can do to make a living for now, but start studying your soul's purpose. Start researching what is your soul's purpose, and let's go there. This world, I'm warning you, this world's going to continue to change, and it won't make sense more and more every day. It's not going to make sense because as you grow spiritually, the more the other's going to look contrasted. And what do I do about that? Give in and be it? Do the antithesis, hide from it? No. Do it, but ask God how to. Ask the Mother to birth a new day. Mother, Divine Mother, Holy Spirit of God. I would like to experience, closer friendships or whatever, and intimate friendship or better job, your soul's purpose, whatever it is. Let the Mother help you navigate that instead of you trying to do it. Of myself, I am nothing. And get that sense of humility. And let this greater teacher come through to teach you on that spiritual level. But ask her how to bring this through on all the levels. Not how to deny the human self, how to bring divinity into the human self. How to see it differently. And like I said, when I look at this in my life, I think of it as one of the most challenging things because there was nobody telling me, nobody teaching me, and I'm just trying to juggle it. And damned if you do and damned if you don't. If I tried to be in a relationship, it's like it's challenging, because you and I are bringing a different presence than most people, and people are going to love that. So they're going to want to cling to you as a man or a woman and say, "Wow, this is unique." Yes, it is. What are you going to say to them? Yes. Yes, it is. In me, when someone would make that a real, like, oh my God, it made me as a kid, because nobody taught it to me, it made me scared. Because I'm just being this thing that I feel inside. They're wanting to either attack it or own it. And I'm like, what's going on? I just want to be this and leave it alone. I went to a metaphysical university. You went to some classes that they had, and I stayed there, and I loved it, because the people and psychics development and all this, it was kind of fun. But at some point, the daughter of the owner of the school, the whatever you'd call it, the dean of this school, her daughter, one day I went there to get a certification for the studies I had done there, and I had to wait for them because they're in the back office, but the daughter came out, and the daughter was like my age. And she said, "So how are you doing, Michael?" I said, "Great, great." She said, how come you're not more honest?" And I go, "Honest about what?" "Well, we all know." "Know what?" "That you're gay." "I am?" Well, crap, she's a psychic, so I'm in trouble. Like, maybe she sees it, okay. She says, "Yeah, we all know." And I'm saying, like, but I'm not, Michael, just accept it. And I'm like, but, Michael, come on. We all know. And I'm like, okay. Now inside I'm anxious, like, what is this? What is this? And she's like, because we see how, you kind of don't hit on the girls that attend here, and, you're not kind of. And I'm like, wow, people make up stories about you to justify that you're too nice, or you're too clean, or you're whatever it is energetically. They'll love you for it. Some will hate you for it. Don't deviate. Just know your identity and be true to that. If you and I did as a kid, try to navigate that more, and I still, to this day, there's days when I think, God, it would just be great to just be normal. There's a part of me that still does that. Normal, not that I'm better. It's normal, meaning where there's just, people aren't looking and targeting and getting funky, and that's my humanness, confiding that, sharing that with you all. But it's a bizarre thing, because I wasn't taught it. But I learned it, and I can tell you about it. But I can tell you from a visceral place of having been there. The more you continue to grow, the more you're going to start experiencing this. And I know a lot of you already experience it. And I'm just telling you what it's called. And I'm also telling you, you can expect more of it. It's the way it is here. It's going to be with jobs, it's going to be relationships, it's going to be in all categories of life. Even your parenting. You have to decide how much to be what you are as opposed to perform. Show your children that you're really still grounded. You're not all new agey. You're not too, mom and her crystals. You're going to get some of that, and it's okay. I didn't push these beliefs at all on my kids, but they clearly saw that, this is what he's into when they were little and growing up. And it takes till now, they're in their like mid-30s, late 30s, and they're able to go, they get it a lot more. But I definitely, at some point, had to learn, let them get it. I'm just going to still be myself. There's a part when I tried to perform and do certain things to feel acceptable to them, and then I realized it doesn't matter. To thine own divine self be true. Not just to thine own self. I don't want to be true to my ego self. To thine own divine self be true. It's who you are, not because I said so and not because you want it to be so. It's what God says. So let me start owning and wearing more of what God created me to be. You know, and you're going to go through phases and stuff. For 9 years ago when I moved here, I went through another phase of owning that, because I'm in a new place and people are looking and staring and pointing and talking, and I had to either run and hide or step into it. And by the way, I asked you people, do you want me to run and hide, or do you want me to step into it? That's kind of what I said. You know, I mean, I'd rather split. You know, there's a lot of weirdness in this town sometimes, and I was like, I could just leave. I was quite happy being on tour. And the folks said, we'd rather you stay. And I'm like, damn. But you're me. You understand? When you said you wanted me to stay and wear this and dress it into a new level of, because the teaching's the same, but it's internally the human being reconciled more properly. So am I going to do this? I asked, you guys said, yes, please. And I went, you're me. So you're mirroring to me. I need to accept this task. So I'm closing with, please remember, it's a test. That's all it ever is. This isn't that others are getting it or not getting it. It's true. They're not getting it or they are getting it. But that doesn't change that it's your test. Are you going to be true to yourself? That's what's your test. So it's not about just putting it on them. It's about recognizing, wow, this is a test. Can I do this? And guys, do not shame yourself if you say no. You might say, I really, really, really want to be more spiritual, but my kids are 17, I'm going to give them another year, and then maybe they'll move out, and then I can. If that's what you want to wait for, fine. If you say, I can't do it now, my partner would never accept it, but I'll be done with them in a few years, then wait. Whatever works for you, do not shame yourself. Do not shame yourself. Guys, whatever you do not shame yourself. Instead, how can I own this? If this is a test, how can I pass this test? Please take a few centering breaths. Shaking off all the stuff of life and the world. Shaking off the notion of trying to correct the people around us, and instead of that we become something. I wish my parents, my family would have been the Brady Bunch, but they were the Addams family. That's okay. That's okay. Let it be a funny sitcom. Relax. It's all okay. Anything that didn't make sense and you don't agree with, let it pass. Whatever did make sense, it's yours. It's not being told to you by a teacher. Let it be yours. I get this. I see this. I got it. I'm working it. Let this change your life. Let your heart be at peace. You're not going crazy, you're just waking up. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. But you are in a challenging scenario of trying to reconcile that on some level you know you're a spiritual being. When you try to bring that into your intimacy and it's not accepted, it feels yucky. When you try to bring it into the workplace and it doesn't work, it feels yucky. Friendships, and they might shame or just not get it sometimes. Even if somebody just mildly, passively just doesn't get it, it still can bring up in us shame, confusion. Even when they mean well, it can still trigger us. Be at peace. Choose and allow yourself to be at peace. I'm okay as I am. I am loved not because of what I've done on this planet. I'm loved because of who I am. Capital I, capital A, capital M. Who I am. The job and the pay doesn't determine it. Being in a partnership or not doesn't determine it. I just am already okay. Okay in the divine sense. I'm protected. I'm safe. My identity is here and it's unscathed. It cannot be harmed. Human self, yeah, it can, but that's only temporary. So I'm okay with that. I ask you, Holy Spirit of God, Divine Mother, I'm asking you with open heart and mind. Even if I've ever been afraid or intimidated or ignorant of this, I get it now. Pour into my being and guide me into my walk of life. There will be rocks to the left, rocks to the left and to the right. There will be pitfalls. There'll be moments of mud and rut to get stuck in. It'll rain, it'll shine. Be with me in the walk and I won't care because of who I am. What did I hear today? That I need to do better at identifying with my true self. That's all. I have a choice and I can choose the divine, not just a better self, lower s, lowercase s, but the true self, uppercase T, uppercase S. And that's what I'm choosing today. And if I got this, even in the romantic sense, I could manifest it as follows. I'm determined to know this. When I say I love you to someone, even to myself, I know humans do that. I love you and it's wrong. But instead, I love you means the God I am loves you. And it changes. And then the human self goes, but if I say that to more than one person, does that mean I'm in love with more than one? Does that mean I'm intimate with more? No. I am loves you is unconditional for everyone. Which one I would choose to live with, play with, and so on is choice. Don't let the head mess with it. I am loves you. And whether you know it or not, the I am in you loves me. That's what we're saying to all people. Thank God I am that I am. And in closing, something I wrote to stay with this inside for a moment, eyes closed. Something I wrote for the new year. It sort of coined off other things that people have written from other belief systems, and I wrote this. Greetings and welcome to Angel Air Flight 2020. We are preparing and prepared to take off into the new year, so fasten your seatbelts. Please make sure your attitudes and beliefs are secured in an upright position. All former patterns and self-destructive thoughts are to be turned off at this time. All negativity and judgment must be stowed away, and no excess baggage is allowed on this flight. This is a non-addiction flight, and there's no tampering allowed with denial alarms. If you're seated next to an emergency exit, it means you might be called on as a light worker, so be careful to read your miracles manual. If you do not wish to perform the miracles necessary during an emergency, please ask your guides to put you on a different flight. Should we encounter turbulence or a dramatic loss of altitude during any part of this flight, please reach up and pull down some guidance and inspiration. And remember to secure your own before meddling with someone else's. Inspiration and guidance will automatically be activated through prayer and faith. Once you own your own faith is activated, you may then assist others with theirs. The captain has cleared us for takeoff and all systems are go. Our destination is oneness. Enjoy your flight. And so it is.
So it is. So it is.
Thank you.